allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I now call this meeting of the Brevard County Board of Zoning Adjustment to order. Mr. Ball, do we have any new staff introductions, anything? None, okay. Our next order of business is to, Mr. Ball or, yes, Mr. Blvd, could you read, let's see. Mr. Blvd from the Planning and Development Office, please describe the function and operation of the Board of Zoning Adjustment to our applicants in the audience.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial body established by the Board of County Commissioner under Chapter 62, Article 2, Division 4 of the Brevard County Code. The Board of Adjustment is empowered to hear requests for variances to the zoning regulation and the sign regulation in Chapter 62, Article 6, and Article 9. Pursuant to Florida Rules of Appellate Procedure, any person or persons jointly or severally agree by any decision of the Board of Adjustment may within 30 days after the date the order is signed apply to a court of competent jurisdiction for appropriate relief. Mr. Chairman, you have 10 items on your agenda today.
Thank you, Mr. Blvd. Would Mr. Higgins, our Vice Chair, please explain to the applicants and audience the statutory definition of a hardship? And in lieu of that, Mr. Bovell,
Certainly, Mr. Chairman.
could you help us out?
A variance may be granted when it will not be contrary to public interest and where, owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter will result in unnecessary and undue hardship. The term undue hardship has a specific legal definition in this context and essentially means that without the requested variance, the applicant will have no reasonable use of the subject property under existing development regulations. Personal medical reasons shall not be considered as grounds for establishing undue hardship sufficient to qualify an applicant for a variance. Economic reasons may be considered only in instances where the landowner cannot yield a reasonable use and or reasonable return under existing land development regulations. The applicant must answer a variance worksheet with 6 questions. The Board of Adjustment will discuss these questions today with each applicant who has requested a variance.
Thank you, Mr. Bovell. I would like to address our board members, the applicants, and our audience about the procedures that we will be following today during these proceedings. The Board of Zoning Adjustment, as a quasi-judicial board with members appointed by the Brevard County Board of Commissioners, will utilize Robert's Rules of Orders to conduct its proceedings. The chair is asking all board members not to ask questions while the applicants are making their presentations. Once the applicants have completed their presentations, we will begin board questioning with the board member who represents the applicant's district. When concluded, questioning is open to the full board. The chair will recognize each board member in turn. Once all board members have completed their questioning, we will then open the floor to the audience who may be here to speak concerning the applicant's application. Anyone from the audience wishing to speak will be given the opportunity to address the board, but only once. At the conclusion of public comment, the applicant will be given additional time for rebuttal, as well as to present their final comments. Once completed, no further comment will be heard from the applicant or the public. The action then moves to this side of the bar for board discussion and action. We will not use a timer for this meeting. Instead, we are asking each speaker to be concise in what they have to say. Our experience is that 5 minutes is usually sufficient, and so we ask you to respect the time of others by being, as we say, concise. It is important that you stay on subject and avoid information that is not relevant. All persons speaking must provide their name and address for the public record. Those wishing not to verbally state their address may ask the clerk at the podium for an address card. Please fill it in at that time and return it to the clerk. Our next order of business is to approve the minutes of our previous meeting from August. Are there any additions or corrections from the board?
No. If not, I'll make a motion.
Please.
I'll make a motion, we accept them as printed and provided to us.
Is there a second?
I second.
Mr. Higgins has made a motion to approve. Mr. Bovell has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. We now move into the consideration of the variance applications. Mr. Blvd, may we have the first applicant that is requesting a variance?
Yes, item number 1, Jeffrey D. and Gayle T. Kluesner, request variance of Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code as follows. Variance number 1, Section 62-1345A to permit a variance of 12 feet from the required 20-foot rear setback for a principal structure. And variance number 2, Section 62-1102 to permit a variance to allow an addition structure to be attached to the principal structure without having a common roof with similar design to the principal structure. It's in an RU 111 zoning classification located at 595 Bahama Drive, Indialantic in District 5.
Okay. Will the applicant please come forward? Please state your name and address for the record.
Jeff T. Kluesner.
Address? Is-
595 Bahama Drive, Indialantic, Florida.
Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're to give us today is the truth?
Yes.
Very good. How may we help you?
So in 2015, we built an accessory building based upon what the GC that we hired at the time said that we could do. He said that he had told us he had came here and asked for a variance. Later on down the road, we'd find out he lied after the building was already built. Since then, we have spoken with another GC, and we have retained him, and he told us the process that we had to go through to get this done. And we want to connect the accessory building that was built to the principal structure, and there's like 6 feet between the two buildings.
Okay. So your application actually arises in District 5, which is my district. I've read through your application, and I actually drove by your property. I have to say that the neighborhood looks well kept, and that your house seems to be in keeping with the other ones in the neighborhood. So I'd have no real questions further than that. Everything else is in the application package itself. Is there any questions from other board members?
No, I don't have any questions. Actually, in this package, he explained the hardship that he went through with dealing with this first general contractor. And he also has a couple letters of support from his neighborhood saying that they would have no problem with the breezeway attaching the two buildings. So I'm good with it.
What's the method that you're connecting this with? Never mind, I have the detail. That's okay. No question? No.
Please just step aside. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in favor or opposition to this application? Seeing none, please return. Any final words or conclusions or anything?
No.
Okay, please take a seat.
All right. Is that up here or back there?
That doesn't matter. Do we have a motion from someone to approve or disapprove this application?
I make a motion that we approve this variance as requested and depicted on the survey and the
I
drawing
second it.
presented.
Mr. Bovell has made a motion, Mr. Higgins has seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none? Actually, you didn't need to do that. At this point, I will call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Your application is approved.
Thank you.
Mr. Bodie, may we have the next applicant?
Yes, item number 2, Joseph V. and Kelly A. Collura, request variance of Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code, Section 62-2118D3, to permit a variance of 2.3 feet over the maximum 16-foot projection for a boat dock in an RU 111 single-family zoning classification located at 175 Artemis Blvd, Merritt Island, in District 2.
Okay, thank you. Could you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Dr. Scott Herber, 351, South Lakeside Drive, Satellite Beach, 32937.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
Yes.
Okay, how may we help you?
Okay. So we're asking for a variance of 2.3 feet extension out into the waterway. Now, the regulations state that no structure can be greater than 20% of the waterway. And if you take a measurement, I did 2 measurements. I did an aerial interpretation and came up with 78.44 feet. And the contractor had somebody come in the water and swim across, and they came up with just a little over 79 feet. For conservative purposes, going back to 78 feet, if you do the calculations, that means that you cannot extend out further than 15.6 feet, okay? The structure itself and this is from seawall to seawall, okay? So seawall to seawall. The structure itself from the seawall out is only 15.5 feet. So it's under the 20% waterway width into construction into the waterway, which actually coincides with the Army Corps of Engineers requires for navigational purposes. The reason for the extension is because the measurement into the waterway is being taken from the property boundary and not the position of the seawall. And the problem is that the seawall, which was built many years ago and not by the current owner, it's not his fault that the seawall's in his position, is built further into the water. Normally when you build a seawall, it's supposed to be at the property boundary or behind, normally. So this is why the dock is extended a little bit further out, but still not extending beyond 20% of the water body width, which I believe is really what the intention of the rules are for navigational purposes, okay? And thus, we're asking that you do grant the variance of the just 2.3 feet due to the fact of the mispositioning of the seawall not caused by the owner. And on top of it, there are some pictures in there. You can see there's been some debris that has been dumped into the waterway, pushing the structure a little bit further out. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I can just interject for a second. So some of you may know that the county has updated our dock code. If you're not familiar with it, it's 2118. When we talk about the dock and the projection, it's very clear where that measurement is. If it's on a platted waterway, it's the platted width. So there's no need to go out and swim the width of the canal. You can go to the plat and look at the width. And so that is the width of, and they get 20% of that. And so with it being on the seawall, it's where the seawall, that's where the measurement starts. So they get 20% of where that seawall is out into the canal. That is how our current code is written for the projection.
May I ask a question? On
Not just, well, yes, go ahead.
And that projection you said was 80 feet, correct? And if it was 80 feet, then that would make it 16 feet, and that the current structure is 15.5 feet. So there's still a half a foot there of ability for the homeowner to go out based on what I'm understanding and hearing.
Measurement.
Yeah, Give them,
Oh,
just
okay.
give them some time.
Sure.
Just give it a minute. We're looking at the plans.
So 16-foot projection, it's an 18-foot canal, 80-foot canal.
It's an 80-foot canal width, so you get
16 feet.
16 feet.
He's asking for 2.3.
Wait, 20% at 16? Let me do the math real quick for you. So if you take 80 feet times 0.2, that's 16. Yes, not 15, 16.
But is it 16 from the property
16
line
feet
or
is
16
what the
from the?
request is for.
I'm sorry,
It's 16 feet.
The projection would be permitted to go 16 feet out from the rear property line out into the canal.
and what, where is it, what is it currently?
No, that's where the property line is. The seawall is, like the gentleman states, is built out into the canal waterway.
So does that change the description
No,
here in the
it's
application?
still going to be, as it's recorded
Okay,
in the plat. It's going to be an 80-foot wide canal, so they're allowed to go 20% out, which would be 16 feet off of the rear property line.
and this application then shows that it needs a variance?
Yes, they need
Okay.
a variance
Okay,
of what they're requesting.
okay. I'd like you to just take a seat and we'll check for.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in
We
favor?
haven't asked any questions yet.
Excuse me, out of order here. Please return to the microphone. Your application arises in District 2, Mr. McCann's district, and so he can proceed with the, any questions?
When was the dock built?
Just. I'll get. Let me get that. Approximately 1 year ago.
Using a general contractor or a marine contractor?
Pardon me?
Using a marine contractor?
Yes, Daryl's
Okay.
docks.
So it was permitted.
Yes,
I have no more questions.
thank you.
Any other?
No.
Any
no,
other
I
questions?
don't have any questions. I understand
Do you have
what's going on
questions?
here.
Does that pose a problem in the future as much as we have with these waterways?
Well, actually, if you look, they have support that says
The
there's
name,
enough room, and the people on that canal all support.
I see.
May I?
So there's enough room.
May I speak on that? I did the math on that. If everybody had just quick math, a 16-foot dock, and if you did 16 feet, I based it on 78 feet. If everybody had a 16-foot projection from their seawall, you'd still have 46 feet of navigational area. And add the 2 feet to that, that's 48 feet. I don't think we have any boats that wide in the lagoon. So that should, and that's plenty of room for two vessels to pass each other too. Okay,
All right,
thank you.
now can I? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor or opposition to this application? Seeing none, if you have any final concluding remarks?
Just to support what Mr. Blvd said, that we do have many letters of support from the neighbors supporting this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to approve or deny?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance request as depicted on the survey.
I second.
Mr. McCann has made a motion to approve. Mr. Blvd has seconded. Do we have any discussion?
I visited the property and had the opportunity to walk out on the dock. I agree there's plenty of space from the end of his dock until the cross dock on the other side for boats to navigate. It's somewhat towards the end of a canal, so there shouldn't be too much boat traffic to begin with, but yeah, I conclude there's very sufficient space for navigation.
Any other?
Nope.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, your application is approved. Thank you. Mr. Bodie, may we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item number 3, Frederick M. and Sandra D. DeArment, Request variance to Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code as follows. Variance number 1, Section 62-1334, 4, to permit a variance of 45 feet from the required 150-foot lot width. Variance number 2, 0.57 acres from the required 2.5 acre minimum lot size in AU agricultural zoning classification. And this is located at 892 South Tropical Trail, Merritt Island, located in District 2.
Okay, thank you. Would you state your name and address for the record?
My name's Frederick DeArment, and we're at 892 South Tropical Trail.
Very good. Raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
I do.
Okay. How may we help you?
Well, I come to you today trying to get some help with a zoning issue on this property that, after I purchased it, we discovered had existed for nearly 50 years. Apparently, in the 70s, the rule was changed, and when that rule was changed, it put this property and many others in the county outside of the agricultural size classification. The property continued being used in an agricultural fashion by not the previous owner, but the one before that. I think it was a nursery or something at a time. And, you know, I purchased it from the previous owner about 5 years ago. He apparently had some issues with the zoning, wanted to change it from the illegitimate agricultural to a residential status, and made application. The board denied that change and forced it to remain illegitimate agricultural. And when I bought it, the title search didn't reveal that to me. And I came to the planning board to get a permit to renovate the house, which is in really bad shape. It's a beautiful piece of property, but the house hasn't really been kept up for 30 years or more. I'd like to make something modern there and utilize a small portion of the existing structure, probably as a garage, attached to a new structure that would be built in front, and then continue some agricultural activities on my property and the adjacent property to the south, which is currently being used as a nursery. We cooperate quite readily between the two of us. I just ask that we legitimize the agricultural status, even though it is outside the current rule. That's the basis of the request.
Okay. Thank you. Just step aside for,
Okay.
do questions first? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. I'm getting confused on my procedures.
Okay.
Your application arises in District 2, which is Mr. McCann, and he can begin the questioning if needed.
All right.
Really don't have any questions. I did visit the property and I observed what you're stating.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, one confirmed that right now it's AU, it's agricultural.
It's AU, has been AU since it was created, probably in the late 50s.
And the only reason that you want to build something new, but they won't allow you to do it.
I cannot
because-
get a permit because it's outside the current zoning
So
classification.
we just need to legitimize the
Right.
existing AU that's been there for a
Right.
while. Okay.
Yeah, as far as the neighborhood's concerned, they won't see any change other than there'll be a nice house there instead of this rundown
Got
flat
it.
shack that's there now.
You're good.
Any other questions?
That's the way I see it now.
Okay. Now, please. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor or opposition to this application? Hold on. Come up to the microphone. Speak clearly into the microphone.
My name is Shelley McKenzie.
You live at?
I live at 950 South Tropical Trail. I have the property next door.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to swear you in. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give us is the truth?
Yes.
Okay, now you may proceed.
So the property that runs along his property is 926, which I also own, and that's agriculture. I would very much like him to stay agriculture. It's just good for the area. There's agriculture around, and like to keep some of the agriculture there in Merritt Island. So I'm for it.
Okay, that was my next question.
Yes.
Speaking in favor, I forgot to
Yes.
ask you that at the beginning. Okay, thank you. Is there any other? Okay.
Yeah, motion.
I'll make a motion to approve both variance requests as depicted on the survey.
I'll second it.
Mr. McCann has made a motion to approve. Mr. Higgins has seconded. Do we have any discussion?
In favor.
No discussion, therefore we will call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Your application passes 4-0. Mr. Bodie, may we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item number 4, TGAC Real Estate LLC, request variance of Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code, Section 62-1483, 5A2, to permit a variance of 1.3 feet from the required 25-foot front setback for a principal structure in a BU2 retail warehousing and wholesale commercial zoning classification. And the address is located at 1775 East Merritt Island Causeway in Merritt Island in District 2.
Okay, will the applicant please come forward? State your name and address for the record.
Name is Sergio Garcia, 4301 Vineland Road, Orlando, Florida. I'm the civil engineer involved on the project.
Okay, do we need authorization for that, or?
Yes, he's authorized.
Okay. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give us is the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay. How may we help you?
This is an existing commercial project. It's the boat dealership, and they renovated the interior from a car dealership to a boat dealership, and now they are ready to improve on the site development with bringing up the property up to code as far as improving the drainage and the asphalt. And the county has required us to come to ask for the building setback, from the existing building setback. It was built and apparently it's not up to code. It's got a 1.3 feet discrepancy. And we need to come to the board to ask for a variance on that.
Okay. Your application arises in District 2. Mr. McCann, you can begin the questioning.
There's a pre-existing building that's already has the construction from this distance from the property line.
That's correct, sir.
And do you know what approximately how far from the property line extends to the street?
From the building to the property line?
No, from the front of the property line all the way to the street.
I don't have that. Be about, I would say 40 feet.
40 feet.
Yeah, because
So-
it's 20, about 23 plus another, I would say 20.
So we have that much more if we're looking at the distance between the street and the front of the building.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Okay, yeah. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in favor or in opposition to this application? Seeing none. Any final?
No, sir.
Okay. Gentlemen, could I have a motion to approve or disapprove?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance request as depicted on the survey.
I second.
Mr. McCann has made a motion to approve. Mr. Bovell has has seconded it. Is there any discussion?
Nope.
I'll just make a comment. I saw the same thing you did, that there's a very broad shoulder between the travel lanes and the edge of the property. And that would mitigate anything that was related to the building being closer to the property line as far as site distances or drainage or anything. So, any further discussion?
Same thing.
Mr. Higgins says he concurs with that as well. I will call the vote. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The application is approved. Thank you. Mr. Bovell, Mr. Bodie, the next applicant, please.
Yes. Item number 5, Robert J. and Carol L. Anderson request variances, Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code as follows. Variance number 1, Section 62-1334-4, to permit a variance of 0.39 acres from the required 2.5 acre minimum lot size. Variance number 2, Section 62-1334-4, to permit a variance of 75 feet from the required 150-foot lot width in an AU agricultural residential zoning classification, and this is located at 3845 Pennsylvania Avenue in Mims, and located in District 1.
You're already at the name and address?
Conley, 3855 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Okay. Do you swear the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
I do.
Okay, how may we help you?
So we're looking to purchase this piece of property from my in-laws, Robert and Carol Anderson. It's separated by an easement that they got this piece of property, I don't know, 2006, I believe. But it's separated by a roadway from an existing house they bought that owned the property. The house was built in '59. So we're looking to get that separate piece of property. They actually had a separate survey done on it when they purchased that property. It does have an easement that would connect it to Pennsylvania Avenue if we wanted to in the future. It has a 75-foot width attachment that actually connects to Pennsylvania, not on the private easement that I and my in-laws share. So we're just looking to buy that, and we're wanting to build a residential there for my son. So.
Your application arises in
District 1.
1. Mr. Higgins.
Yes, sir. I was by there, and the house to the south, is that what you're referring to, that the vacant house there?
Yes.
That's the area, that's the one then.
Yeah, that house had the original piece of property across that easement. And then that house had, I think it's about 1.5 acres that was behind it. And then it also had property that extended behind my in-laws. So
And what you were speaking of previous, was that a flag lot, you're trying to say?
I think it was laid out that way in the zoning, but when they originally did that plot back in the 50s, but I don't think it was assigned as a flag lot when we talked about it in zoning. So.
Well, his request barely meets what all the neighboring area places are and have, I should say. Kind of blends into pretty much everything around you there. And I think there's really access for that behind that too, isn't there?
I don't know that it has access going out the back. That piece on Burkholm that's behind it, I believe, is about 10 acres that's undeveloped on the corner of Burkholm and US 1.
Right, I don't see a problem with it, concurring what the neighbors are and have, I should say. It's a nice little quiet area.
Yeah. It's pretty much a private drive.
Any other questions?
No, just want to confirm that what I'm seeing here on this drawing, the lot width, the variance for the lot width is simply because you're developing a flag lot, right? And the front of the lot is really just going to be a driveway to get into where you're going to be building.
We were originally going to just try and use the easement that we all privately share. I mean, the trash and everybody runs down that road, but really it's never been county maintained on that easement that's been there since the 50s. I own the house on the corner at 3855, and then it really stops Pennsylvania Avenue there. My house was built in 58. That house at the very end was 59. I believe my in-laws in the middle was built in 87. After the zoning change, obviously. I don't think they designed it that way, but we were applying for that variance on the 75 feet in case we needed to connect it to Pennsylvania. We had that option. If there was ever a dispute about the access to the road, you get a new person that buys one of the houses, we wouldn't have an argument later.
First, okay, if I hold this up, can you see
Yes, sir.
the boundaries?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This is going to be facing Pennsylvania Avenue, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in essence, this is going to be your entrance, and you're going to be building someplace back here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I understand it now. Thank you.
Any other questions, discussion? We step aside.
Mr. Chair, if I may just help the board out, this request is just for the lot size of the property. There is a administrative process for a flag lot application that will need to be done prior to any building permits being issued. There are provisions in our code to allow for access easement, and it would have had to been done prior to 2011 for that to happen. I don't know the specifics of it, but regardless of what your decision is here today, the applicant is still required to meet the access code requirements in 62102.
So I think one of his variances is for lot width, isn't it?
It says.
Yes.
Correct, but if it's a flag lot. Okay, well, it still would have to meet access.
So if we approve the lot size and the lot width, essentially we are saying that the flag lot is a good deal, is good to go.
For 75 feet is large enough for a flag lot.
Okay.
And if I could just chime in over here. Sorry. If I could just remind you to go through the 6 factors on the record for each case. Perfect, thanks.
Okay. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor or opposition to this application? Seeing none, any final words?
Yeah, so when we originally did the variance, I filled it out. I had this question the other day with the planning department. I actually filled it out to do that as a variance to connect, because we knew it needed to be at least 25 feet. We had 75. That was the original way we set it up. That's how I filled out the application. So the wording on it, when I saw the sign posted, I questioned a little bit, and we went back and forth on that. He actually told me I may have to come back in the flag lot status. I mean, we would hope to just use the existing right-of-way that we already share, that's already been shared by 3 houses since the 50s. But, I mean, if I have to come in as a flag lot and fill that out, then so be it. But we'd prefer to just use the easement. I like the woods to be there. I like the blocking from the neighbors directly in front of my house. But, I mean, if I have to bulldoze through it, I guess so. But I don't really want to, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you read the 6 things before or after?
After. Do we have a motion to in favor?
I will make a motion that we accept variance 1 and 2 as per the request as stated.
Do we have a second?
I second. I second.
Mr.
Sorry, this is, there you go. Yeah, I second Jack's motion
Okay.
as is depicted in the survey.
We have a motion by Mr. Higgins to approve, a second by Mr. Bovell. Is there any discussion? Well, then, comes back to me to...
6 favorite questions.
So, as part of the application, you filled out a hardship worksheet that asks us 6 questions. And so, no, that's okay. And I just need to read them and explain. The first one is that special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. I heard nothing that said they're not. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. It's existing as it is. It's not something that you purposely caused. The granting the variance requested does not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, and structures in the identical zoning classification. I was told that that particular question applies to celebrities. Don't recognize you as a celebrity, so. That literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification of the provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship to the applicant. I heard discussion that this is very similar to other properties in the area. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, and structure. I believe it is a reasonable minimum variance. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. I heard no discussion that would invoke a negative application of this sixth question. So with that having been said, I will call the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the application is approved. Okay, moving along, Mr. Blvd, may we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item number 6, Charlotte A. Gilson, request variance, Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code, Section 62-1405, 6A, to permit a variance of 1.8 feet from the required 7.5 side south setback for a principal structure in a TRC, Mobile Home Cooperative zoning classification, and it's located at 719 Periwinkle Circle, Barefoot Bay, located in District 3.
Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Dwayne Dingus, 3705 3rd Avenue, Malabar, 32950.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're giving us today is the truth?
Yes.
Okay, how may we help you?
Well, about a year ago, we requested a permit to rebuild a dilapidated screen enclosure under an existing roof. And about that time, I'm a contractor in Barefoot Bay, by the way.
Dwayne, can you speak more into the microphone? Thank you.
So in trying to get this permit, zoning kicked it back, and they've started making every home come into compliance before issuing any permits. And so we're not trying to build outside the existing structure. We're just trying to make improvements to an old home. And a lot of these homes in Barefoot Bay, these people buy cash and they never get a survey and never realize the issues. So our first hurdle was to vacate the easement on one corner, and we thought we were good to go, but just to find out, no, now you're allowed to apply for a variance. So that's what we're asking, is just to bring this property into compliance so we can make some improvements to an old home.
Okay. Your application arises in District 3, and our representative from that district is not attending today. So I will take over his duties as starting with the questions. And I have no questions. So is there anyone else who has questions for this applicant?
No, this is pretty straightforward. The county has already vacated the easement. All we need to do is bless it.
Okay. Still have to go through the procedures, would you? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor or opposition to this application? Seeing none? Last words?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion? I cannot, as a chairman.
Motion to approve as depicted on the survey.
Mr. Blvd has made a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Higgins has seconded. Is there any discussion? I see that there's no discussion, so I will call the vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Your application is approved 4-0. Mr. Blvd, may we have the... Oh, yeah, I was supposed to do that before we voted. All right. Lawyers. that special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other land, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. They are applicable, but with the second question, special circumstances that result from the applicant's actions, no. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege. Again, that means that we're not wowed by celebrities.
No, I think it's a common problem in Barefoot Bay.
Okay. That's just read into the record. The literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would not deprive the applicant, or would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification. This also goes to the fact that there are many other properties in that area which come under this same restriction, and we will maybe be seeing more of those in the future. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land. Yes, it is the minimum. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter. And yes, it is to resolve these administrative problems. Now I will call the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The application is approved. Mr. Bodie, may we have the next one, please?
Yes, item number 7, Caudell Properties LLC. Request variance to Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code, Section 62-1345A to permit a variance of 5 feet from the required 20-foot side street setback in an RU-1-11 single-family residential zoning classification. And this property is located at 1425 South Banana River Drive, Merritt Island, located in District 2.
Okay. The applicant is here. Would you state your name and address, please?
Keith Cradell, 2756 Newfound Harbor Drive, Merritt Island, Florida, 32952.
Okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're going to give us today is the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Please, how may we help you?
So, good afternoon, Chairman and members of the board. Thank you for taking the time to hear my request. I'm asking for a 5-foot variance from the 20-foot side street setback when a lot is contiguous to a key lot. The key lot that is contiguous to 1425 will never be able to be built on and is completely comprised of a drainage ditch which runs down the entire length of South Banana River Drive. Also, the lot was platted many, many years ago before key lots were even really an issue. And if it were platted today, it would be platted as a drainage track rather than an actual buildable lot. And also, during our due diligence period prior to purchasing the property, we hired Bus and Mayor Engineering to do a survey and develop a site plan. We talked to the county about this side street setback, and we had email correspondence from them stating that it would be 15 feet. We went ahead, moved forward with building plans, engineering. We had a septic tank permit. We got all the way through building permitting, and the last comment was that we needed to have 20 feet of setback rather than the 15. We would ask the board to approve the 5-foot variance to the side street setback in order to remedy the unnecessary hardship to the land that adding an additional 5-foot setback causes. This area was platted long ago, and the key lot was an unintended consequence. If granted, there will still be a normal setback of 15 feet that normal corner lots have when they're not contiguous to a key lot. Therefore, there would not be any detriment to the surrounding or local community. Thank you for your consideration.
Your application arises in District 2, which is Mr. McCann.
I'm just trying to look it up, but what is the acreage of that?
You're concerned about, his variance is really towards the side street, not towards the front or the back. It's really towards the side street. And if you look at the house across the street, just looking at it from, it's a similar distance. That this, Is this house your
Now,
house?
when you say across the street, across Banana or
Oh,
across
no, over
Oris?
here. This is the lot. This
Across
is your house?
Doris.
Across Oris, that's a it's a house that's mostly vacated, that's kind of overgrown, so that's not mine. I'm on the,
Okay.
the right.
And
Yeah,
all he's
correct.
asking for is some relief on this side, but it's not going to be any closer to the street than this house already is. That's
Okay,
it.
all right. Got it.
Aerial photographs can be deceptive, but this one,
I guess there'd be no
Gives you-
objection.
Right lot, it is the way it is, you know. Honestly, I wouldn't mind sitting, over a beer and talking about it, but, we're here, and as it stands, because we live right there, I'd probably oppose it, you know,
Okay.
at this point, unless we got any more information.
thank you.
You said you're at 1420 South
Yes.
Banana. Which house is that? I thought it was the one across the street from Horace.
No, so the way the rectangle points, I'm
Mhm.
on the other side of South Banana, closer to the river.
You're across the street.
Yes,
Okay, so the variance request is requesting a 5-foot setback towards the side setback, which would be Horace Street, so it doesn't encroach any closer to your property.
I mean, we're looking straight on it. you
Right,
know,
I get
directly,
that.
So, and we, you know, it's like, you can throw a rock there, so.
Okay,
It
thank you.
would.
So would your choice be to leave the lot vacant forever?
I would,
The house he's
that, honestly.
proposing is going to be 40 feet off South Banana Drive, off the property line. He's looking at 15 feet off of Oris, and that's what the variance is for, the side street setback.
Okay,
So he's
so-
going to be 40 feet if you're on Banana River yourself. He's going to be 40 feet off of the property line a bit.
40 feet,
Yes.
40 foot
And
off
he-
of
And he
South
has a
Banana.
lot and a half, so his lot is 80 feet wide. So
Okay.
it fits in with the rest of the lots that are out there. I didn't know if you knew which lot was the side street that he's asking for.
No, I think I understand, and, yeah, so that's 40 feet from South Banana.
Yes,
Yes.
he's going
Yeah.
for, it's
Okay.
proposed at 40 feet from South Banana.
Got it. Okay.
So-
Any other questions from the board for this?
No.
All right, anything
All right,
else?
thank you.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. I'm assuming there's no others? Okay. Final statement, rebuttal? whatever?
Sure. So I actually live in the same community. I ride my bike down that street every single day. What we're going to do is in perfect tie-in with the rest of the community. It'll be an island-style home. I would love to sit down
In
and
the-
have a
in
beer
the
with you
microphone,
and
please.
talk to you about it. We've built other houses in the area. It'll be 15 foot from Oris, 40 foot off of South Banana River Drive.
Okay. Thank you. Gentlemen, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance request as depicted on the survey.
Mr. McCann has made the motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Higgins has seconded it. Any discussion?
I'd just like to say that, I understand your concern, and looking at the application, hearing the testimony, the proposed residence will be built no closer to your house based on what happens here today. It would just be about 5 feet closer to that side street in front of you, so I don't see that as a hardship to you.
Any other?
I understand what they're saying too, but then it comes to fact, what can you do with the property? And it's unfair to the person that wants to have a home on that property. So it all comes down to view, and unfortunately, we can't solve all the issues.
Okay. All right, I will read through the 6 hardship worksheet questions. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other land structures or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. I don't see that there are any special conditions. Seems in keeping with the neighborhood. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. Yes, but it's in keeping with the neighborhood. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant a special privilege that is denied by other provisions of this chapter to other folks in the, again, that applies to celebrities, and we're not swayed by that today. That literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter will deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification. It seems like there have been other variances based on the fact that it appears to match the other setbacks on the side street. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. I believe it is the minimum. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and I believe that is also true for this. So, gentlemen, call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Your application is granted. Vote of 4-0. Mr. Bodie, may we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item number 8, Robert J. Brooks, request variance, Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code as follows. Variance number 1, Section 62-1401, 5B, to permit a variance of 9.47 feet from the required 15-foot side east setback for an accessory structure. Variance number 2, Section 62-2100, 1D, to permit a variance of 2,576.5 square feet over the 1,053.5 square feet, 50% of the living area of the principal structure allowed for an accessory structure. Variance number 3, Section 62-2100, 1B, to permit a variance of 1,555.7 square feet over the total floor area of 2,578 square feet of the principal structure allowed for all detached accessory structures. The variances are in an RRMH1 rural residential mobile home zoning classification, and this is located at 4725 Gandy Road in Mims, located in District 1.
Thank you. Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Robert Brooks, 4725 Gandy Road, Mims, Florida.
Okay. Right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're going to give us today is the truth?
I do.
Okay. How may we help you?
Well, I, with the help of my parents, bought this house back in 1998, or 99, somewhere thereabouts. And it was a junky old trailer with a nice lot and a nice garage. And my dad and I are both into cars. Fast forward almost 25 years, and the trailer was basically dilapidated to the point where it was almost uninhabitable. My mom broke her leg, and the light bulb went off that if she comes back from the nursing home, they're probably going to not allow her to come home because it was in that bad a shape. So we've met with contractors. We finally hired a contractor to build a new house, have the trailer taken down, and the trailer, everything was moving forward. The trailer got removed, and then I got a call from the contractor that we had to stop because the garage is too big for the house that we're building, which I didn't know was a thing actually, but so that's where we're at today. I'm asking for the board's approval to keep the existing garage that's been there all along and allow me to build a brand new house out there where we live out in Mims. I mean, it's a beautiful area. We're at the almost at the end of a dirt road and with no neighbors. So that's what I'm asking.
Well, you do have neighbors.
Not close.
They're close, to the east of you. Coop is the contractor?
Coop is the contractor.
I seen you had a couple of campers or something there.
I have a motorhome there now, only because, how recently were you there?
Day before yesterday.
Okay. I put a motorhome out there now because it's been vacant for so long. I had the sheriffs out there maybe a week or 10 days ago because I had two females that had jumped over my fence and were picking I think they're called palmetto berries.
Yeah, to sell them. Yeah.
Obviously, they're not allowed to. I have a locked gate. and they stole my trash can to make it easier for them to transport it. So I looked at my cameras, and they were in my garage and took stuff out of my garage. So I've got an ongoing sheriff's case with that. I've done a photo line-up already, but it's just the vacancy of where we live, unfortunately.
As you said, I mean, what you had there and what you planned on doing. What you plan on doing is an improvement from what was there.
By far.
As far as, I guess how to put this is, it coincides with everything in that entire area of Hog Valley out in that area. I mean, numerous people have everything scattered and built all over their property, technically. But I think the house would be an improvement. I think it'd make an improvement as far as the other structure, your garage. I would say as it is, it would stay, but I'm not so sure going back if something happened to it and you had to replace it.
If I had to replace the garage, you mean?
Yeah.
As in, like if a hurricane knocked it over. I don't know that I would replace parts of it. I would probably come back to the board and ask for permits to do something more substantial than what's there. I'd like to have it enclosed where some of it's not enclosed.
But staying within the questions here, we have 3 issues here, and it coincides with everything in the entire area. Unless anybody on the board sees something different. I mean, I rode up and down all the dirt roads there and looked, and there's all the neighbors basically are alike. I mean, from what y'all are into out there.
That's why I moved out there years ago.
Airboats, boats, and everything
RVs.
else, and hunting. I don't have any other questions.
Okay, any other questions? Please step aside. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor or opposition to this application? Seeing none. Any final comments?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion for approval or disapproval of this applicant?
I'll make a motion the motion is going to include 1, 2, and 3 together, obviously, as stated in the request is depicted.
I second the motion as is depicted on the survey.
Mr. Higgins has made a motion to approve. Mr. Bovell has seconded. Do we have any discussion? Oh, you guys. Up next. Okay, I will read the 6 hardship worksheet questions and comment. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other land structures or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. Yes, but as number 2 states, that special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. We're going to conclude that they do not, that it was there when you purchased the property. Number 3, that you're not a celebrity and we don't recognize you as such. Number 4, that literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification. I heard comments that the situation is very much in keeping with the rest of the neighborhood. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use. I conclude that it is the minimum. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. And again, we heard that it will not be injurious. So with that read, I will call the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then the application passes 4-0. Mr. Bodie, may we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item number 9, Jerry G. and Lenny G. Ballard, request variance of Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code as follows. Variance number 1, Section 62-1334-5B to permit a variance of 6.5 feet from the required 15-foot side west setback for an accessory structure. Variance number 2, Section 62-1334-5B to permit a variance of 13.2 feet from the required 15-foot side east setback for an accessory structure in an AU agricultural zoning classification, and this is located at 3280 Milwaukee Avenue in Melbourne, located in District 5.
Thank you. Would you state your name and address for the record,
Yes,
please?
good afternoon, gentlemen. John Karlovich, 200 Orlando Boulevard, Indialantic, Florida.
Okay. Your name is different than the subject property owner. Do we have authorization on that?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm
It's
sorry.
okay.
I'll wait.
Raise your right hand, please.
Yes, sir.
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give us is going to be the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. How can we help you?
But just for the record, Miss Lenny and Jerry Ballard are in the audience here. I just did the proper paperwork to speak on their behalf. I'll be brief as I can, tell you the history of what brought us here. Is we actually bored 2 horses on that property, and we were looking to purchase a part of it. And it started out with 1.5 acres and an easement agreement. When I contacted the planning and zoning, they said that, no, we won't agree. You'll never be able to put anything on there because we don't accept easements. So they said, what you have to do is what they call a flag lot. So I said, okay. So that's what we did. So what happened was, to do the flag lot, you have to get a survey. We started this process back in January, and it took a long time to get a survey. And when I submitted what I need is a preliminary letter of approval, like that gentleman said over there. When I submitted everything on the parcel, not the one I'm purchasing, the other one, there's a structure on there that doesn't meet the setback requirements. It was built there in approximately 1971 by her father. That's how old it is. That's what we're here for, to possibly get the variance for that, so we can go further with the purchase of the property. There's also another small structure. It's just a lean-to for a horse shelter that's too close to the pole, because now we have to do the flag lot and there's the pole. That met setback requirements, but because of the pole now, it's a little too close. So basically, I have no opposition to that, because I would obviously be buying the pole, but that's the other piece of this variance that's here. If this gets approved, or what happens here, we still have to go through getting the preliminary letter of approval to be able to do a flag lot on the property. And that's all I have right now. If you gentlemen have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Your application arises in District 5, which happens to be my district, so
Oh,
I
sir.
will begin with the question. I did drive by along, I forget, Milwaukee Avenue or whatever.
Yes, sir.
And I got to say that the sheds are not substantial structures. They are, as you say, they're shelter for animals. So my question is, why can't you move the sheds?
Well, basically, I have an email planning and zoning. I plan on removing on the sheds, or rebuilding them, making them better, that are within compliance. That one particularly there, her father built them. There's a lot of sentimental things with them, and I don't see them staying up very long, or what they plan on doing. But it's just money. So I'm sure that's something that we can address. But
That was my question.
Yes,
with,
sir.
Why can't the sheds be moved? And you've answered that.
Yeah.
The other question I have is, I think you're looking for like a 32-foot easement going back, or not an easement, but the access back to the rear property. I think your survey shows you're asking for, I think it's 32 feet and a little more. It's hard for me to read. I don't have my
Yes, sir.
reading
Yes,
glasses
sir.
today. The code says minimum 25. Why can't you get away with 25?
The reason they did that was the surveyor was the one that came up with that. Basically, because we started out with 1.5 acres, and they said that you have to have 2.5 acres for the agriculture exemption. We plan on preserving the property. My wife loves it. I've been on active duty just for 3.5 years. I just got home. We board the 2 horses on there, and we don't have any real plans for the property to do anything, building a house at this time or anything. But you need the pole in order to, if we ever were to build a home, you have to have that. We plan on putting up a nice barn or something like that, and we have an agreement. We're going to use the common driveway, the easement. I don't know how we're going to do that yet. I guess at closing, talk to the attorney about legal agreement, something between the two parties, an agreement. But what happened was the surveyor would not put that on the survey. He said, I'm not going to put an easement on the survey because you have the pole. The reason that he made it 33 feet is because so it didn't come up too much on their property. That's basically, we asked for the minimum 25 feet, but he says then the front line would come up too close actually to the structure that we're looking for the variance for. Actually, that answers that question. That's why the pole is so wide, because if it was thinner, we'd have to come up more in the front of the property, which then would be too close to the structure that's there that we're asking for the variance for.
Okay. Can I make the statement?
Yes, sir.
It sounds like the surveyor said you need 2.5 acres, and therefore he widened the pole in order to
Yes, sir.
make up the 2.5 acre total.
Yes, sir. And
You don't need 32 feet. You can
No,
get
sir.
away with 25 or
Correct.
whatever the minimum. Is there any other way to make up that acreage?
You know, not according to surveyor, this is all new to me. And what happened was I called every single surveyor in Brevard County. Everyone was too busy to even do the job. I had to pay a surveyor double, $2,400, to come down from Sanford to do this. And we started the process in January, more or less, and I think he came around Easter to do the survey, and then we didn't hear back from him. We finally got a final copy of the survey in August, and he promised me a month or 2 months. And like I said, we called every surveyor in Brevard County, which kind of was which is good for the county that they're so busy that they can't.
It wouldn't matter which surveyor, they still would do the same process of trying to meet the 2.5 acres.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. That's all the questions I have. Does anyone else have questions?
We keep referring to pole. What are we talking about pole?
He's talking about the flag stem to the back lawn.
Oh, okay.
Is what he is, the pole.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's the flag stem.
And it was a learning process for me, too. I didn't know what all this flag lot and all this stuff meant, and it was, yes, sir. Because they planning and zoning stated that we will not approve an easement, you know, because I need approval, basically, you need approval to split the lot from, that's what the preliminary letter of approval is for. So basically, their requirements are what you see on the survey. And then the variance thing popped up because of the structure that's on their property there. And basically the reason it was built in 71, and the reason that it was put there is because it's the only land that was cleared. It used to be all farmland at the time all around the area, and that's where her father put it. It backs up to, to friends with their neighbors. I don't.
Mr. Chair,
much as I know.
if I can just redirect you guys. So the flag lot application is an administrative process that's handled by staff, not by you guys. So what under your purview is you need to make a determination whether 3.2 feet from the proposed flag stem is an appropriate setback from that existing shed. That's what your review should be right now.
Okay, I understand. I was only focusing on the 25, why you needed the wider. Okay. Well, I started the questioning. You asked questions. Anyone else?
Just for clarification, variance 1 has to do with the larger of the two sheds on the west side of the property.
Yes, sir.
And that's really not changing. That's a pre-existing shed. It's been that distance to the property line pre-existing.
Yes, sir, since 1972, I believe.
Variance 2 is the smaller shed on the east side of the property line.
Yes, sir, and to answer with Mr. Huffman's question was, we originally were going with a smaller pole, which put it in compliance, but
Right.
because that's what happened.
So that smaller shed in variance number 2 was in compliance with code until you now want to make this into a flag lot, and that stem of the flag lot encroaches towards the shed.
Correct, sir.
Which only creates a distance between the shed and the property line at this point of 1.8 feet.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. No, another question. Can you describe that shed for variance too. What kind of shed is that? I see it's small on the,
Yeah, it's four by four posts, basically almost like a horse stall. I imagine, just to say it's just 4x4 posts with a roof, sidewalls, 3 sidewalls, so an animal can go in and get shelter. That's really basically all it's for. And most of them are out there grazing.
I know the question was asked a little earlier about moving that shed. Could that shed be moved, or?
It would be difficult, sir, the way they cemented the posts in and the way the posts are in. You know what I mean? It has the corral doors. It's pretty small, though, but I haven't looked into that. You know, I mean, I didn't, like I said, I didn't want the pole that wide to begin with. And secondly, I wouldn't oppose it being that close to my pole, but that's not my call. You know, I mean, that's why I didn't, that just popped up at the time. You know, it would be an undertaking. The Ballards are here. I mean, it would be quite a bit of work. Like I said, I've been gone 3.5 years, and I came back in July. So my wife's been over down there with the horses. So basically, I have not even got into helping them with work at the place and things of that nature, and even looking to see if it could be moved, or I'm sure anything could be done. But you know how it's pretty structured in the ground at this point, and that's as much as I know. I apologize.
Thank you.
There is a note on the survey in red that says sheds will be removed for flag lot application approval. Is that something is that a guarantee, or?
No, we spoke to planning and zoning about that because there were shelters for animals, and basically we plan on either removing them or fixing them up. You know, I mean, they're pretty well. They have a lot of where the roofs are leaking, I mean, things of that nature. And planning and zoning agreed to allow me to keep them. So that's where they originally wanted to remove them, because I think there's something with vacant land. You can't purchase vacant land with a structure on it, but I have permission from them, and several will be removed. I mean, we want to put up a nice barn on the left-hand side and utilize an easement, not the pole, and to start with. And then basically we would have to take 2 of them out as it is, at least. And the ones in the rear are in pretty bad shape that are on my property. So, I mean, I haven't gotten into it too much yet.
Who wrote this in the red, removed?
If you note in your application, is that?
Can I approach
You
it?
may, you may. You see how it's written on there in red? It's in the application packet, that's why I'm asking.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, you're contradicting what you just said then.
No, what I did was, well, I guess I read that at the time or whatever, and I had discussions with planning and zoning, and they went back and forth with their higher-ups and everything, and they came back with me with an email in writing stating that you can keep the sheds on the property.
You have that?
I have the email, but, you know what, sir, I did not print it out.
But
I apologize.
I'd like to make a statement about those ones on
Yeah,
the back,
please.
on the flag lot. The property is zoned agricultural. You can have agricultural accessory structures that are accessory to agricultural uses, and that's what these are going to be used for, is, from what he said, is for housing his
stalls.
Yeah, his stalls and stuff, so that's the reason. If it was zoned something other than AU, he would have to remove them.
The reason I said that is because it sounded like it wasn't structurally very good anyhow. You said the roofs leak and
Yes, sir.
et cetera.
Yes, sir. They would have to be either taken down or repaired, redone. You know what I mean? I mean, when it comes to animals, something's better than nothing. So, I mean, it just requires work, and like I said, I have not.
Unless they get hurt.
Unless they get hurt, yes, sir. We would never do anything to endanger animals, but yes, sir.
Yeah, I still go back to the fact that, again, I drove by and looked at it. I mean, it is a stall.
Correct, sir.
Within a paddock or whatever, a corral.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
It doesn't, for the function of the paddock or the corral, it doesn't need to be in that location. It could be in another portion within that corral area to be functional.
Yeah, I agree with you, sir. Like I said, it comes down to money at that point. I mean, you'd have to, do all, more 6x6 posts, with lumber nowadays, I would imagine something like that would cost $5,000 or $10,000 to even move over in today's world. You know what I mean? But yes, to answer your question, sir, yes, they could go anywhere within the paddock. And like I said, this wasn't an issue until they had to come up with the 2.5 acres for their standards, and which widened the pole.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
I just need some clarification now. The, what was just discussed, where it says on the survey, sheds will be removed for flag lot application approval. I'm interpreting that as the 3 sheds on the back parcel, parcel 1.
Yes, sir. That would not pertain
But
to
not the 2 sheds in the variance request.
You're absolutely right. Correct, sir.
Thank you.
Do you have any more?
Kevin, you're saying the 3 up? that's
Yeah.
up. Okay.
Any final?
I hope I answered all the questions. Never really done this before, so I mean, let me know about anything I can do to help.
We did receive, I don't know if you received a copy on this application.
I did, and I could address it if you'd like, sir.
Well, let me
Sure.
ask you to step aside. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor or opposition to the application? And I see we have one gentleman that wishes to speak. I need to get your identity and swear you in.
My name's Jerry Ballard. My wife and I are the ones that are Jerry G. and Lenny Ballard. We've lived there
Address?
3280 Milwaukee Avenue, West Melbourne, Florida, 32904.
Okay. Right. Do you swear, you don't have to put it all the way up, do you swear that the testimony you'll give us today is the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now,
All I want to say is, and add to that was, when we built those, Bobby Bowman was the code enforcement guy. Bobby Bowman told me to build them to code. He gave me how far away everything was, all right? And we did. They're all hurricane clipped. They're all built according to what Bobby told me. So they're safe, for the animals. That's what you got to watch out for, that's all. I just want to add to that, what Jay said otherwise is pretty much true. And we haven't done no repair, because it's hard to do repair with a broken back. But anyway, Jay is going to purchase part of our land. I can't work anymore. My wife is a sole worker. I'm 75 years old. And my wife works, and she's 67. And it's killing her, killing me, trying to do work outside anymore. We have to pay everyone to do stuff anymore. And Jay has volunteered to help maintain the property, as well as the sheds that we're not going to use, the horse shelters. He's going to tear those down and put up new ones, but we don't know which ones you were going to allow to stay. That was what I wanted to add. So whatever it needs to make it right, we're going to do it. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and one more thing. The driveway is, I had the culverts replaced. The county did. They had the sidearm mower rip one out of the ground, and it's 33 feet wide, the driveway is. The culverts. It's got head walls, and the county installed it for me. They tore the driveway up, never fixed it. I got to do the driveway. I haven't done nothing because I didn't know what I was going to do here, And being hurt like I was, it's kind of hard to do anything, even get around. That's why Jay did all the footwork for me. I'm not able to hardly drive a car as best I can do, so that's my story.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Do you need assistance getting back? You're good? Okay. Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor or opposition? Okay. With that, I will, anything else before we?
Just for the record, my legal name is John, but I go by Jay. So.
Okay. Gentlemen, do we have a motion? I can't, as chairman, do a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2 variance requests in the application and what's depicted on the survey.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, Mr. McCann has made a motion to approve. Mr. Bovell has seconded that motion. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to note that the letter of objection is only for variance number 1. I don't see any language in it objecting to variance number 2. Variance number 1 is the pre-existing shed that doesn't change anything from the pre-existing distance from the property line. So the variance number 2 is the one that where the new driveway is going to be wider than needed and is going to result in a 1.8 foot distance between the shed and that driveway. However, my thoughts are, the driveway, if it was 25 feet or 33 feet, nothing's going to be built in that driveway. It's still going to be open space. And both property owners are in support of this, so I don't have an issue with it.
Well, Kevin, question. On the variance 1, it says, does that have anything tied into number 2?
No.
Is somebody right? There's no reason for that.
Two separate.
Okay.
The only comment I have is I did go out and look at the property, and they have explained the reason for the 33 feet versus the 25. The shed is there, but if that pole portion of the flag lot is used as a driveway or a roadway, I didn't personally see that there was a site problem, that would block any driving site. It's set back from the road far enough from the intersection that it wouldn't interfere with that. Just that in the future, if this property was sold, that shed is going to be close to the property line, but the driveway could be built in such a way that it stands off from it.
Do we understand the gentleman right, though? Did they already put in the drainage pipe there, though, in that area? Did they miss that? That's the reason?
I did not notice.
My recollection of the testimony was that there's a 33-foot drainage pipe already installed by the county.
There.
Which
That's what I think it's there.
Which, corresponds with the width of that
So
proposed
if you moved
driveway.
it, though, if you moved it, you'd have to move the drainage pipe or add to it.
Or it'd be on 2 separate properties.
No. But it's still out in the county right away.
Mm.
Yeah.
Which that's another permit.
Yeah, it's different. So, any other discussion?
Nope.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, but I need to go through the 6 questions. As soon as I find the paper that has that. Where's my number? Oh, there it is. Okay, so from the hardship worksheet, there are 6 questions. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other land structures or buildings in the appropriate. I don't see that there's any special circumstances for variance number 2, variance number 1. It would be applicable to other properties in the area. That special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. They do own the land and the structures do belong to them, so it is their actions. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privileges denied to other provisions. I will take it as prima facie here that we're not dealing with celebrities. That literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. Literal enforcement would deprive them of rights commonly enjoyed by others in the area. That the variance granted is the minimum variance. That was explained by the survey requirements. that the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. The discussion I heard here, it will not be injurious to the area. So with that, I will call the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Your variance passes 4-0, or your application passes.
Thank you all for your time and expertise. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bodie, may we have the next applicant, please?
Yes, item number 10, Donald K. and Maria K. Cossack, trustees, request variance, Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code, Section 62-13375B, to permit a variance to allow an accessory structure to be located forward of the front building line of the principal structure in an SEU, Suburban Estate Use Residential Zoning Classification, and this is located at 7105 South Tropical Trail in Merritt Island, and it's located in District 2.
Okay. Would you state your name and address for the record,
I'm
please?
Donald Cossack, address 7105 South Tropical Trail, Merritt Island, 32952.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give us is the truth?
I do.
Okay. Well, now, can we help you?
Yeah, I'm requesting a variance to build a garage in front of my existing primary residence. My house currently sits on 2.7 acres on South Tropical Trail. I bought the land back in 2020, and I built the house back on the back third of the property and put a new septic tank and drain field in behind that to keep it as far away from the river as possible. Garage will take up less than 1% of the total area of the land. It's about 1,000 square feet. Again, the only place I can put the garage is in the front yard. The backyard has the drain field and the septic tank in there. There's 9 other of my neighbors that have the same situation where their garage is an independent structure from their house, and it sits out in front, including 2 contiguous lots to me that have the same thing. I got lots of other stuff, but I think that tells it.
Okay. Do we have any questions for this applicant? Your application arises in District 2, which is Mr. McCann.
Can you just describe a little bit in detail what this structure will appear to be, or look like from the front?
Yeah, it'll be a combination 2-car garage and 2-car carport. So enclosed garage, two parts, and attached to it, 2 of it will be carport. Be approximately 40-foot long and 25-foot wide.
Will it somewhat be matching the aesthetics of the house?
Absolutely.
Will there be a second story?
Pardon me?
Will there be a second story?
No.
Thank you.
Any others?
We've handled several identical to this.
I have a question that may be a little tangential,
Sure.
somewhat on point. There is a large push by the county to get people off of septic tanks and onto a central sewer system.
I can't wait.
Have you heard anything about a program?
We did that down in Key Largo. I built a house in Key Largo back in 1996, and they were talking about doing it back then. They had me put in a 3-tank sewer system where you went through, they treated the water and we injected in there to get clean water, even though they were coming through with the sewers later on. They have sewers down there now, and I would look forward to that for sure. As I live on the Banana River, and over the last 20 years, I see things that I'm not happy with, and I hope we could change that. So.
Okay. My question, I don't know that there's a program for South Tropical Trail in that area, and I'm just asking if you had any knowledge that Brevard County is coming through with that program.
I don't. I'm hoping with the tax thing that we did to raise money to make the rivers better, I hope that that's going to be part of it at some point. We've raised oysters out on our dock to try and help stuff. So
okay.
We planted mangroves on our riverfront and we don't have a view of the river anymore. We did when we bought the lot. We planted mangroves there for the fish. So we're very ecologically minded.
Okay. Thank you. Any other? Okay.
Well, just want to comment that there's a letter of opposition, but clearly this person doesn't understand the reason you put your septic in the back and the drain field is to protect the river, and essentially the only place that you can put it on, the best place to put the accessory structure, which is the garage, is up front. And makes more sense, just looking at your property, that would be the best place for it anyway.
The funny thing about that, I saw that letter that was written by Mr. Saladino, who's my neighbor, which I haven't talked to too much, although my wife and his wife dislike each other immensely. He has accessory structure, 2 of them in front of his house, including his garage. So it seems strange to me that he would, object to mine, but he's got it on his.
I think that's the end of the questions. I need to do a procedural question here. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor or opposition to this application? Seeing none, any final words before we deliberate?
No, I think we've covered it. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. All right, gentlemen, can we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance as requested and as depicted in the survey.
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. McCann has made a motion. Mr. Higgins has seconded it for approval. Any discussion? No,
Just-
don't we do the
Just
discussion
quickly,
first?
I want to address the letter of objection quickly. Mr. Saladino states that he's the property just to the north of the subject property. Really, right to the north of it is just a...
Sir?
Sir, I'm just, you don't have to come up.
Your portion of this is done.
Really, what's just to the north is Mr. Saladino's driveway. His driveway extends pretty far back. I think he's on almost 6 acres of property. Only his driveway runs alongside or adjacent to your property. And then once you clear your property, his driveway turns off to the right and then goes back to his. There's no place on Mr. Saladino's property that can see any structure on your property, including what the garage is going to be, the proposed garage, where that's going to be located. So he won't be able to see it anywhere on his property other than when he's driving down that driveway. The house right next to you is technically 2 houses to the north of you, but it's only separated by the driveway. I don't see any opposition from them. And also, I agree with you. I noticed that there are 2 accessory structures in the front yard of Mr. Saladino's property, and that has some weight for me.
Okay, any other discussion? All right. Okay. I will read through these 6 questions from the hardship worksheet. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other land, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. The circumstances probably do relate to other applicable zoning applications in the area. That special conditions and circumstances do not result from the absence of the applicant. Partially, yes, but again, considering the area, it's not something that you purposely caused. The granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privileges denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, structures in the identical zoning classifications. Again, this tends to relate to government officials or celebrities that we might be swayed by their fame. And I don't think that applies here, sir. The literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter will deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification. No, I believe that these are identical to similar zoning in the area. That the variance grant is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. Yes, the discussion I heard, it seems to be the minimum. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter and will not be injurious to the area. Sight lines and visuals discussion that I heard, doesn't sound like it will be injurious. With that, I will call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And, your application passes 4-0.
Thank everyone here for their time.
With no other applications that I know of, I will declare this meeting adjourned.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such